I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook, baby.
So happy New Year, bro.
Happy New Year, Jose.
Do you have any resolutions, like
Nope.
to be more reckless or to be more
No, I never do a resolution.
museful or
Nope.
Oh, okay, cool.
What about you?
Be a better podcast host. That might be
Impossible.
Yeah.
That'd just be an unrealistic goal.
That's true. Well, I appreciate your honesty. Yeah, I thought about doing some resolutions, but I thought I'm pretty perfect the way I am, so I don't think there's really anything for me to improve on.
Right, I know.
Great. No.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, hey, well, did you get any cool Christmas gifts? Did you get anything worth mentioning?
Oh, I don't know if you're setting me up for an episode or not.
I'm not,
oh, you're not?
No,
I got that. I got that book I sent you.
Oh, the Francis Ford Coppola one?
Yeah, the Coppola book. I almost said De Palma. Yeah, the Coppola book.
Sweet.
Which I feel like that's now becoming a pattern. My aunt gets me a book from a director that we like.
Yeah.
So we did Tarantino last year.
That's right. Yeah.
We can do. My aunt listens to the show. Hi, Marcy. If you're listening.
Hi.
And I can talk about that if you want to get it too. We can do a book.
That could be a fun one, especially because he's working on that movie. Was it Cosmopolis? I think it is. He's working on like some big, like sort of sci-fi.
Is it
film? Yeah.
What was his last movie?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It wasn't like it was like a small independent, weird little experimental film. That
he doesn't really have to make money. I feel like it's something significant, not necessarily significant good, but significant, and maybe it was really bad, significantly bad.
Yeah. Well, either way, because I'm pretty sure it's Cosmopolis. Anyway, when that movie comes out, I think it's supposed to come out this year or something. But he's been working on it for a couple of years, so it's. But it's a fascinating story.
Megalopolis.
Megalopolis.
Dude, he hasn't come out with a movie since 2011.
Yeah.
Twix.
So it'll be really interesting when that comes out.
Oh wait.
Because I mean, I feel like just the story behind the making of that would be like a fascinating thing to talk about.
Wait, hold on. His last movie, Twix, 2011. There's a new movie that's been on my list, a 2023 movie called like Betwixt Now and Midnight or something. I guess that's a sequel. I don't know. Val Kilmer's in this. Holy shit. I don't know. I don't want to just read these, but yeah, he hasn't Rainmaker. Dude, after Godfather, yeah, I guess he did Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And then he did Jack with Robin Williams, I think. Like came out like 96 or 97.
Yeah, he did Jack 96, 97. He's made 3 movies this century.
Yeah.
I guess you don't have to do that when you make, arguably the greatest movie ever.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like what's his face?
De Palma?
No. Why am I blanking on his name? It's my favorite. Stanley Kubrick. Because as he got older, like the space in between each film got longer and longer.
Yeah, but they were amazing.
I know, yeah.
Like what's his worst movie
that I've seen? I would probably
like, to be honest, I don't really like Eyes Wide Shut. I don't think like it's not.
Even
that is like not. It's
still above average.
Movie. Way above average. Yeah, it's still like a good movie, but I just don't like it all that much. But I'm also, I guess, thinking like grading on high expectations, grading on a cubic scale. I don't know. Stanley Kubrick's probably my favorite director.
Yeah.
Just pound for pound. I'd
take it. Anyway, getting back to Francis Ford Coppola, I think that'd be. I think it's supposed to come out this year.
Says 2024.
That'd be a good time to talk about do an episode or two dedicated to him. In time that with the movie. So
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny, like just the story behind it, because he's been working on it for a few years. It just seems like such a I feel like that story alone has been told somewhere in another movie or multiple novels where it's like someone who used to be very well respected, but then they kind of fell off the horse and they've been kind of dormant for a long time, and now they're coming back with like a huge grand vision.
mean, he
And it's
just like
he's-
lives in Italy, I think, in California. He has this vineyard. My parents buy his wine a lot.
Yeah, my parents went to the vineyard.
Did they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it seems pretty cool.
I think he also lives in Italy a lot. I don't know. I might be making that up. And also, his daughter Sofia Coppola is a pretty established director now. I actually don't really like. This is not what we were talking about today, but Lost in Translation kind of annoys me. I don't know if I talked about it before, and I'll be quick on this.
Yeah.
I don't like movies where people are just miserable.
Oh,
Like, to be miserable.
Yeah.
And also maybe I'm biased because I love Tokyo and like a lot of Japanese culture, but
Yeah.
Tokyo specifically.
right.
And it's like you have these two Americans who are there who are just fucking miserable,
Yeah.
and they like barely leave. They seem to barely leave the hotel bar. It's like,
Right.
go out into Tokyo. If you did that more, you'd
That'll
be
cheer
less
you up.
miserable. Yeah, like I get the point. I don't know. Just like, she's like a Yale graduate who's just like just stuck in the ennui of whatever. Her husband's working too much. And then you have this other Bill Murray's the super rich guy who's being paid probably tens of thousands of dollars to go do a whiskey shoot in Tokyo. It's like, be happy.
Yeah.
Like it could be a lot worse.
Right.
And I don't know, just from that, I just really, that just rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah. I hear you, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, it's the new year.
Yeah, I like this topic. At first, when you first sent it to me, I'm like, I don't know how much we can talk about this.
Yeah.
And that is MICKEYMOUSE. Hey, bring it to Stanley Kubrick.
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
thing at the end of Full Metal Jacket, which
That's right.
might be my favorite. I don't know. It's hard to pick a favorite Kubrick movie. Now we're going back to Kubrick.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I defend that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Some people don't like. I fucking love that movie.
That's great. Yeah.
But yeah, Mickey Mouse. We're talking about Mickey Mouse today to start because Mickey has entered the Thunderdome.
Yes.
Which is the public domain. And
let's be a little more specific. So it's the first version of Mickey Mouse, which is Steamboat Willie.
Steamboat Willie. Yeah.
From 1928.
Which means now we're gonna get they're already in the works, if not gonna be released, like a horror Mickey Mouse movie.
Mickey's Mousetrap is the big one.
Which is to be expected. That's kind of what horror does.
Yeah.
It just takes anything that exists and makes it scary.
Yeah.
So,
and it's funny because last year Winnie the Pooh entered public domain, so then they released a slasher movie version of him.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: it was kind of a similar thing because I don't know if it was a Disney change when they gave him like the red shirt, but like the version that's in the public domain, he does not wear a shirt. So that's the one that's in public domain. Yeah,
it's not originally a Disney IP, right?
No,
it's British.
Yeah, I believe so. And what's interesting is about why Disney is so cool about letting Mickey Mouse, this version of Mickey Mouse, enter the public domain.
Tell me,
it's because the copyright was originally going to expire in like the 70s, I think, and then
84. So, but then there was the Copyright Act. They got on top of it at 76. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they've done that several times because I think it was going to expire again sometime in the 90s.
I actually wrote out a timeline if you want me to.
Yeah. If you want to just do that. Yeah. Go for that.
Yeah. So I watched a video. I want to give him credit. He's actually like yours truly. He's a lawyer who also does YouTube videos. His name, the channel's Corridor Crew.
That's the exact one. That's
is that what you watched too?
Yeah. That's the exact one I'm referencing. And they're the ones who do the VFX Artist React.
Very cool. Yeah. They're very good. Basically, Steamboat Willie comes out in 1928. At that point, the copyright is going to expire in 1984. Disney lobbies Congress to pass I don't have the exact names, but a Copyright Act in 1976, which extended the copyrights not for everything to be extended, but everything before 1976. So of course that covers not just Mickey Mouse, but lots of the kind of OG Disney properties. Donald Duck, that's Disney, right? Donald Duck,
Goofy.
Daffy Duck, something else. Donald Duck, Goofy, yeah. So they that gets extended to 2003. Again, they lobby, and this one's even kind of derisively named the Mickey Mouse Act or whatever, like Protect Mickey Mouse Act or something like that.
Yeah.
This was in the late 90s, so Bill good old Bill, who's in the news again today, actually, coincidentally, or yesterday, signs that into law, which was 98. And that extended it. That's what brings us now to 2024. That was 19 years. So that was going to be 2003. And that brings us to literally 4 days ago, when Mickey enters the public domain. Why do you want to give why, at least that? Because I was wondering, like, why don't they just keep doing this?
If I remember correctly from that video, and correct me if you've watched it sooner, but basically,
Watched it like 10 minutes ago.
Oh well, was it like Disney's basically so fucking big? They own so many IPs that they're just sort of like, yeah, we're fine with letting this one IP go.
That's
basically.
exactly it. They don't care anymore. So I guess that's good. Like, that's a good thing in a way if you're someone who's been just like having a outline of a Mickey Mouse movie you want to make. It's Disney is so goddamn big. He did the numbers from it really started in like the mid 90s, which makes sense. Yeah, I was born in 1990. I've only known Disney really as this kind of behemoth.
Yeah.
But like the 90s was that kind of the rebirth? Like early 90s was kind of the renaissance of Disney.
Yeah, the Disney Renaissance was kicked off with the Little Mermaid in the late 80s, but then
right,
like Lion King,
Aladdin, those heavy hitters, which like that's how I knew Disney. Like if you ask me like the gun to your head, 3 Disney movies, I'm naming like Aladdin, Lion King, probably Little Mermaid,
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast was that after those?
It was 92, I believe.
Right. Okay. So but really in the 90s and then into the 2010s, really late 2000s, I guess, it bought Marvel, most recently bought Hulu, ESPN, I think came first, Lucasfilms,
ABC, the Ducks.
Actually, there's actually a good documentary about that. Oh, do you know what I wanted? Do you know what's funny? The one thing I'll say about the documentary, besides it being very good, it's the ESPN, which makes sense. 30 for 30. You know Gordon Bombay, the coach in Mighty Ducks?
Yeah.
You know why he has that name?
Nuh-uh.
This is something like I would do. The writer who was writing, he was a typical, this is kind of very like romantic Hollywood writer, struggling, living with his friend who's a roommate, writing this script or whatever. He looks at his shelf and there's a bottle of Gordon's gin and a bottle of Bombay gin. And so he names his name's the coach, Gordon Bombay.
That's great.
Like, that's very funny. And it stuck with it. I think he was just doing as like a placeholder. Like I do that. Like sometimes I'll even put in brackets, like add name here, add place here, or you just write something and expect to change it, but he kept it. So that's very funny.
That's great.
But
so he's an alcoholic. Got it.
He's all right. Well, I think he would. Yes. And I think at the time, struggling Hollywood scriptwriter, that I think it was kind of a surprise. Like it was a shot in the dark, and this might have been. What was that?
Let's do this in real time because I have a 9-pack of beers from around the world. So, do you want to do like invent character names right now?
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
A 9-pack.
Yeah, it's from Cost Plus World Market.
That sounds like a fake thing.
Okay.
All right. We're doing our first unboxing here.
Got this for Christmas.
Sweet.
Okay, cool. So let's just do
read them out. And what country?
Sapporo San Mig.
Okay.
So Japanese.
Love
and,
Sapporo. San Miguel. San Miguel Spanish.
Yeah. So that's what it is. Sapporo San Mig, but it's just abbreviated to San Mig.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Sapporo San Mig.
Yeah. Okay. So
it sounds like a good hero name.
Miguel Sapporo.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Pataburger.
German.
Pataburger Buddha.
Oh, is that? Oh, I like that beer.
Lucky Buddha.
Yeah, Lucky Buddha.
Pataburger Buddha.
Okay, Buddha Pagaburger.
Yeah.
Buddha Pataburger's not bad. What's that?
This is Downtown Brown and Blanche.
That's a name right there.
Yeah. The Downtown Brown and Blanche de Chambly.
That sounds like a couple.
Yeah.
That's a porno right there. Downtown Brown and Blanche de Chambly. Interracial.
Or like a 70s
that's like a 70s interracial porno.
Let's do one more. Okay. We'll do Great White or Great White Ray.
What's
So
Ray?
Ray is
Mexican, like
yeah,
R-E-Y?
yeah, but it's got 2 R's.
Oh,
So that's funny. And then Great White.
really
This is America. That's lame.
right.
Why would they put that in a pack of world beers?
Get those in the fridge. Get those boys cold.
I know, but then if they're not, but they're no use to me if they're not next to my bed. So
That's a good point. Hey, he's got a point.
All
So
right.
anyway, so Mickey in public domain, yeah, and that's why is because Disney's just so big, like we don't give a shit anymore. We're not gonna spend the money. We're not gonna lobby for it. And now there's gonna be probably a deluge of Mickey material, which I think will be fun. Whatever. But also, I think Metropolis is entering, which I have a big movie poster. I think it's an incredible movie from 1928,
Yeah.
German, kind of like peak German expressionism. I think that's what it would be.
Yeah.
Just beautiful movie. Obviously, very like workers' rebellion type movie. I would like to see. I would love to see that remade, but tastefully. Like it could definitely turn into something like very crit moist.
Right.
But if it's done tastefully and kind of with a reverence to the original, I think it would look really good. And like I could see like a Ridley Scott making a sweet Metropolis, sweet looking at least Metropolis.
I was gonna say, or Denis Villeneuve, who did
Oh yeah,
Blade Runner 2049 or whatever. There
yeah,
are 3
who also
directors.
did Blade
I think.
Runner. Yeah,
I can see Chris Nolan doing it, Denis Villeneuve, or Robert Eggers. He's doing a remake of Nosferatu.
Oh, is it?
Yes, and
Yeah,
so far it looks really. I think they've only released a handful of images, but he's
Yeah.
got such a cool visual style. I'm like, okay, he can handle German. So far, it seems like he can handle German expressionist cinema, like pay reverence to it while also.
He did The Witch,
modernize-
right?
Yes, The Witch and The Northman.
Oh, he did The Northman. Northman's
Yeah.
sweet.
That was cool.
Yeah, I love that movie. Okay, so I think this is a cool way to kind of start 2024. This could be like a regular thing for us too. I didn't really even put together like the public domain day.
Yeah,
It could be a regular topic for us for first episode of the new year.
So I don't know if I ever brought this up before, but Stephen King on his website, I don't know if he still has it, but for the longest time he had this thing where you could basically buy the rights to use some of his stories, like for like $1 or even for free, and sort of like, yeah, if you just pay here, like here are 18 short stories that I don't mind. You can make if you're, an indie filmmaker, you can go ahead and make it for $1.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's very cool. You know, he sucks.
I know.
That's very cool. I want to like Stephen King. I really do. He makes it so hard.
I stopped following them. It was just
I stopped following too. But if you go over to the For You section in Twitter, people like him pop up because they want you to engage with people you don't like. That's hey, surprise, surprise. That's the point of social media is conflict. Anyway, and another reason why I thought this was a really good topic for us, because this isn't just like paying homage to a would you say he's like the first cartoon, or at least the first like
no
was like major
I think the first like the animated, I guess, sort of icon or something, or
the first like animated. I don't mean like drawn cartoon. I mean like a motion picture cartoon. But even if he's not, he's definitely the most iconic in world history. But also why copyright exists is actually pretty cool. And the way the lawyer YouTuber broke it down, I should get his name, on his channel was very interesting. It's like, we want, for 2 reasons, like why they exist and then why they expire, are both kind of to catalyze the same ends, which is catalyze to the same ends, which is one, like artistic expression. Like you want people to create interesting art, movies, books, stories, painting, all these things, and be and have them be lucrative. Like they're like that profit motive. As much as art, we want to separate art from profit. I think sometimes, like from the beginning, art was being commissioned by kings and emperors and khans and sultans. Yeah, and that's why some of these great works exist that you can go see in museums. They weren't just some starving artist, for the purity of it. It was to make a living. And that's okay. Like that's a good thing. I think true artists want artists to be paid for their work.
Yeah.
So that this promotes that idea. It's like, oh, well, if you make something, especially if this is supposed to protect the quote unquote little guy artist too. If you make something that catches on, that's great. You don't just want some, megalith to come and take it from you. Some, proverbial megalith to come and take it from you, and then just put it at a mass scale like that. That would suck if you create some cartoon or some short, some YouTube clip even, and then Disney, for instance, it steals it and then turns it into something much larger with your idea. So it is to protect artists and to make sure they get paid for their work. Another is but why it also why they also expire is to continue like human knowledge and intellectual curiosity. And once those people have been sufficiently I don't know, remunerated or whatever, remunerated, it's not supposed to just, it's kind of sad to say, but not supposed to like die with them. Like it's supposed to continue on, and people like sorry, is it David Eggers? I always confuse him with
Robert Eggers.
David Eggers is a writer. I always confuse those names. Right, like to make Nosferatu, for instance, which goes all the way back to the 1920s. We want that. Like we want that new director who we were just lauding to take something that has existed for almost 100 years. I think it's 95 years, and bring it to the contemporary art form, and whatever style that is. Like that's a really cool thing. So it benefits. Think about Shakespeare. Like think about what's his name? Who's the Australian director? Who Baz Luhrmann. Like he made Romeo plus Juliet polarizing. Some people find it to be it's the one, by the way, it's the one with Leo. It's in like Venice Beach. It's Venice. It's Verona Beach, which is supposed to be Venice Beach instead of Verona, Italy. It's contemporary. They're wearing Hawaiian shirts and have swords instead of guns instead of swords, and Cadillacs instead of horses. But it's Shakespeare, word for word Shakespeare. That's really cool, whether you like it or not. Like that was a cool endeavor. I happen to really like it. Some people hate it. So it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I find it fascinating. Like this is going to make me sound like such a sissy millennial, but I'm still kind of like a little bit like in shock that it's like what Mickey Mouse is in public domain. Like you can just like one of the most iconic figures of all time from one of the most litigious companies of all time. It's just like now it's just there. Like we can just grab it and we can do stuff with it. Like,
you do whatever you want with it. No safe words.
So yeah, it's wild, but at the same time, it's like
that might be our episode title.
Do whatever you want.
Mickey's in the public domain. No safe words.
Oh man,
but no, I agree. It is weird. It's because even South Park came out with that episode. Well, it was like late 2000s, maybe, about Mickey Mouse and how he's just a bully, like a litigious bully. And it is weird to think that you would think that at the same way, like I could spin this to say, or to say, like, I'm surprised they didn't continue the copyright just because it's Mickey Mouse. Like it's not even Goofy. It's not Donald Duck, where they might let those go. Like it's Mickey Mouse. I would think maybe they would do it just because he's iconic.
Right.
But I'm glad they didn't. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, but it's also just sort of like that's a drop in the bucket.
Oh yeah, it's nothing financially. It's nothing. Like but I think Mickey Mouse probably I wouldn't say like kids know Mickey Mouse, of course. That's probably more because of Disney World and Disneyland. Than anything they're seeing on TV. I don't know the statistics of how what percentage of kids, and let's say literal legal kids, so like 17 and below,
right?
What percentage of American children do you think have been to Disney World or Disneyland?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you think it's do you think it's 5% or 60%? No, it's not that one. I think it's a quarter, 1 in 4 kids have been to Disneyland.
Yeah, I was gonna say about 20% at least.
Have you been to Disneyland?
I've been to Disneyland, yes. Not Disney World, but Disneyland. Yeah.
Right. I've been to Disney World, not Disneyland. I don't know. That's weird. That's something I would like to learn.
Yeah.
What
But it
what
is interesting
percent?
because, like, they haven't released. I mean, I don't have Disney Plus, so I don't know if they've released like and like done when was the last
Yeah.
time we saw Mickey Mouse in a movie, in like a theatrical film or
I
anything?
mean, to be honest, the only like as a kid, like as a consumer of Disney, when I was a
Yeah,
kid, the only thing I think of Mickey Mouse in is Fantasia, which I
yeah,
did love.
yeah. That's cool.
But that's the only time I remember seeing Mickey Mouse as a character in a story instead of like an icon.
Right, right.
At least I think so.
Yeah,
Right? Like I feel like Mickey Mouse was our parents' generation more, and really generations before that even.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but I think our generation he was a symbol, and now I don't even know if he's that for Disney as much as I mean he is in the statue. He is like isn't Walt Disney holding his hand in the
Yeah, yeah.
statue? So I mean he'll always be that icon. But it would be funny if someone like if I could make art like that, like you just like made your own Walt Disney and like Mickey Mouse statue.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know though, because then there is a difference between trademarks and copyright, which I
Right.
was looking up.
Mm.
And that is a little different, like the imagery, but I don't know. I need to look into that more.
No.
This is not my legal practice. It's not even something you really learn in law school unless you take a specific class for it.
Right.
So I'm not sure, but there is a difference between like with that trademark and a copyright. I know a big difference. Copyright is to protect the author, the artist who created the thing. The trademark is to protect, I think, the thing itself. That might be too simplistic. So this is not legal advice, anyone out there. In fact, you should never take anything I say on the show as legal advice.
Or
ever.
just listen to him.
or just agree with or condone.
So yeah, that'll be a fun thing. And Mickey's Mousetrap apparently is not the only horror film based on Steamboat Willie. That's
not
but it's funny
surprise me at
that they
all.
were. It's interesting that they were making it because like the trailer came out already, so it's like the movie's been shot, so it's like they're just like waiting for it to like release it, I guess.
I bet they're gonna make like a homoerotic live action Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Like on Pornhub, that's gonna come up.
Yeah. All right.
And we'll talk about that in detail on the next episode.
So how can we segue from that into our next topic?
What is our next topic? Which one?
Dave Chappelle and
okay.
Speaking of Pornhub,
so Dave is if you want to say Dave is back in the new, like this is I think grasping at straws, to be honest, but it feels like they're trying to make something. I don't know. So this is from December 31st, last day of the year. In Variety, William Earl, 2 first names, and this is about Dave's new special that came out that day. So this guy really had this locked and loaded because it came out on December 31st. Called The Dreamer. Basically, it's Dave being like, I haven't seen this, by the way, but just from reading this,
you didn't. I told you to do it, dude. To be like actually like prepared for this podcast for once.
Did you watch it?
No.
Oh, okay. It's Dave being Dave, at least how I view him. Like he says he's not going to talk about trans stuff anymore, but then he immediately starts talking about it. It's kind of like the non-bit bit. Like he's doing a bit about not talking about something while talking about it. Like I don't know, not like just asking questions here, but he basically says he makes a joke here, which is of course is the headline, and that's I love punching down. He's talking about he's not going to do trans jokes anymore. I don't need you people to think I'm funny. He then said he's going to transition to joking about handicapped people instead because they're not as organized as the gays. And I love punching down. Like it's very obvious he's joking. He's obviously saying that very tongue in cheek. And then he talks about how, and then he, I guess, immediately goes into a bit about, I think, a very serious issue. Like he's not just talking about trans stuff here, that everything likes to get lumped into that, but like not trans prisons, but women's prisons, where in places like California, you can just say that you're trans, and you can be a man with a penis, and be put with one of the most vulnerable populations, literally captive women in like small confinements, and even be not only a criminal but a criminal of sexual proclivities, like sexually violent proclivities, and be placed with them. And that is something that people are just supposed to accept, which is absolutely absurd. In New Jersey, actually, there's a big case about this.
Oh, really?
I think they're suing. Yeah, or maybe that was also there was something with the guards where like basically raping women, which is also not great. That actually might have been the thing. Might have been both. A lot of action over here in New Jersey. But he talks about that, how he said, anyway, I won't go through the bit. It's not fun to like read jokes that much. But this didn't seem like a big deal at all. Again, we're talking about it. We've clicked on this a couple of times. But this to me is them grasping at straws, like trying to make something out of nothing. This was litigated in the court of public opinion. Dave won, in my opinion. Sure, there's a loud minority who is after him, literally in a sense. He got attacked on stage last year, or I guess technically 2022. He does talk about that in the special, but I don't know. To me, this was a big fat juicy nothing burger.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's funny that like they always highlight like the 12 minutes. So in here, like it's 12 minutes of him, making fun of trans people, but he's got like 30 hours making fun of white people. And like that's fine. Like go for it. Like make fun of whoever you want. But it's like it's just like that sort of like asymmetrical thing of like we can totally shit on this group over here, but this tiny little group, like that's the thing. We're trying to spotlight on that, and that's the thing that you can't do. But I mean,
he does say some things that are just like are just, I don't say anti-trans, but I guess that is like that's his opinion, that's his position when he talks about what's he say, like talking to someone who's just lying to him, and that's why I feel like talking to a trans person.
This one joke that's pretty funny. Like they do like to make up words to win arguments. Yeah,
well, there's that, but a lot of it is not like I think it's disingenuous to say that he's like making fun of trans people. Like, no, the joke he's making is actually not trans people. It's sexually violent male criminals who abuse the system, the perverse system, to claim they are trans because of the like affirm only situation that exists in some states, like California, and I think New Jersey has it too. And that's he's making fun of the system and making fun of probably not trans people,
right,
like not legitimately trans people. And so to lump that in with saying that Dave Chappelle is making fun of trans people and punching down when he's making a very logical, reasonable, and like super majority popular opinion, like taking that position, which I can't imagine that under 80% of Americans think that violent sexual criminals with penises should be placed in women's prisons. And you're saying that that's punching down, and people are going to go, well, I agree with Dave. Like, you're not credible.
Right. Exactly.
He also does just make fun of trans people, but and also in this last special, I think he's tired of fucking saying this. Like he talked about his trans friend who killed herself.
Right.
Because of people like these. Like most of it, I think, is making fun of trans people. Some of it's also making fun of the population I just talked about, and also the activist class, which are not trans.
Right.
A lot of them, they're whatever non-binary is, maybe, or they're just like crazy activists.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what draws most of his kind of ire. Are those classes? If they didn't exist, I'm sure he wouldn't bother.
Right. No, that's absolutely right. Like when he goes after the alphabet people, it's like he's not like it's like he's pointing out like the absurdity of like it went from LGB to LGBT, LGBTQ, LGBTQIA plus. And it's like, okay, this just keeps getting longer and longer. When do we stop? Like so that is an absurd thing. So and then he's doing what a comedian does, which is to make fun of like this is an absurd thing that's become so common.
Sorry, when he says here, So the guy, so this is a mentally ill man who attacked him on stage, right? This is the guy. And Dave makes fun of him. He goes, I triggered them because I had done LBGTQ. I like how they put sick, SIC jokes, and it turns out this fellow was a B. He also joked that knowing the attacker was bisexual, he could have been raped. It's like if you are giving Dave shit for ripping on the person who attacked him with a knife,
Yeah.
of course he's going to lean into it and then make fun of him in another way.
Right.
The last thing I want to talk about this is that I find this very disingenuous, this article, because the final or the penultimate paragraph says Chappelle's been under fire over recent years for frequent comments regarding the transgender community, including his 2021 Netflix special, The Closer. The controversial material incited Netflix employee walkouts and protests in solidarity with the LGBTQ plus community. First of all, it was minuscule and it didn't really do anything. While Netflix's Ted Sarandos initially defended the comedian and his right to artistic freedom in a memo distributed among Netflix employees, he later said he screwed up in his reaction to the controversy. So that screwed up in quotes is a hyperlink. So I clicked that. I went to this article, which is also in Variety. This is from October 19th, 2021. And here you have an interview with Ted Sarandos, the CEO of Netflix. And he only says he screwed up, that he didn't basically listen a little at first, maybe could have approached it differently, which is fine. That's kind of just like the tactfulness of being a CEO. But he doesn't say he screwed up in anything else. He actually defends himself very much. Defends his decisions in not taking down the special. I don't know how many times in this interview he talks about artistic freedom. The interviewer tries to bait him into basically defining hate speech, which we've talked about ad nauseum on the show, is not a real category.
Right.
And Ted Sarandos does such a good job here of saying basically the interview is asking where do you draw the line, right? What will you remove? He says calls for violence. That's where I draw the line, more or less. It's like if there's calls for violence on a individual or maybe a group, I forget exactly what he says. That's when it crosses the line, which is right. That is right. Legally, that is right. That's incitement. That's a lot different. So right here, and I just want to read this because I feel like I'm not doing a great job explaining it. So what is the protocol for defining hate speech at Netflix? What crosses the line and what doesn't? That's the question. He goes, we're trying to support creative freedom and artistic expression among the artists that work at Netflix. Sometimes, and we do make sure our employees understand this because of that, because we're trying to entertain the world, and the world's made up of folks with a lot of different sensibilities and beliefs and senses of humor and all those things. Sometimes there will be things on Netflix that you dislike, that you even find to be harmful. Where we'll definitely draw the line is on something that would intentionally call for physically harming other people or even remove protections. For me, intent to cause physical harm crosses the line for sure. That is, by the way, a fantastic answer from someone who's not a lawyer. Or maybe he was a lawyer at one time. There's a lot of us. But that is a unbelievable answer. That's someone who prepared for this, was not caught off guard, and knows what his company's role is in the world. And I really appreciated that. Yeah. So then he asked a question about talking to Dave. I've talked to him recently. And then of course this isn't good enough for the interviewer. He has two other questions. Then he goes, I want to circle back and ask definitively, do you personally, and does Netflix feel that The Closer does not amount to hate speech? Again, that's me. Here, Ted says, under the definition of does it intend to cause physical harm, I do not believe it falls into hate speech. Again, amazing. Yep. That's a great answer. And then one more time, just to because the interviewer cannot fucking let it go. He goes, so the special will remain on the service. Ted goes, I don't believe there have been many calls to remove it. then he goes into the walkout and all of that. So this article, the one that was from December 31st, makes it sound like if you just read that and you don't click the hyperlink and you're not really tuned into this stuff, you would think that the activists won, that Ted Sarandos did a mea culpa, and you would think that maybe Dave's special even came down and that they changed policy at Netflix. And like, not at all. Where he says he screwed up, he basically meant like, maybe I could have been a little, like in my words, could have been a little more tactful with my response. But my position has not changed at all. My opinion on artistic expression and what we stand for at Netflix has not changed at all.
And I like how the title of that article is the quote, "I screwed up. Netflix's Ted Sarandos addresses Dave Chappelle fallout," making it seem like,
again, that's why you have to read the articles and not just the headlines, which I don't do enough.
But yeah, I mean, it's these fucking editors though.
And I also do know that a lot of people forget the author usually does not make the headline. Is that, am I right about that?
That's pretty common. I mean, for the two publications that I write for, they typically write the headline.
Yeah.
Unless you're pitching an article. Yeah. Unless you're pitching an article, sometimes they'll take your suggestion. But
so you didn't write the headline for your last piece. I'm a big doofus.
No, for whatever reason, the editor thought that would be appropriate. So, kind of related. I have not looked into this recently, but it is something that I do want to write an article about on Medium at some point, and then it might be worth talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Oop, you still there?
Yeah.
I found several studies that have quote unquote concluded that people who make jokes about certain marginalized, oppressed groups tend to be more loose when it comes to attitudes, expressing like negative perceptions of said groups. But I've not seen any study that looked at jokes about white people or men. So obviously there's a huge motherfucking bias in the research of how jokes like racial or sexual jokes can supposedly contribute to a person's attitude. Like if you're comfortable making jokes about women, it's like, oh, then that means you're just generally more comfortable with sexism. So it's like either obviously there's a huge bias in studying this stuff and in jokes and how they supposedly contribute to bigoted attitudes. And I would not be surprised if the studies themselves were employed a bad methodology. But it might be kind of an interesting topic.
Well, if there's going to be any, I don't think there's any correlation in this stuff. Between jokes, culture, really, and
leading to like any real world implications.
Yeah, I don't think so. But if there were to be, like, if you look at I don't know if correlation is the right word. It's causation would be the right one. If you look at when it became much more popular to shit on men, really in every, like, if you watch any show, any commercial, like the man, and this is just small, but like the man's always the doofus, right? Generally, almost always, if it's like, and there's kind of like that racial, gender, sexual orientation pyramid, and maybe it's a pyramid or more of a Venn diagram, but it's like if there's two men and a woman, it would be like the woman makes the smart decision and the men are doofuses. If it's if one of those men is white, one's black, and the woman usually doesn't matter, then the white man's the doofus. Like doofus maybe isn't the right word, but it's like making the wrong decision in a commercial. It's
kind of bumbling idiot.
Who's not using the product. The one who is like the black woman. The one who's not's the white man. I mean, it's something I really didn't notice for a while until you start seeing it. And then it's all you see. I know Bill Maher did something about this years ago, like maybe 2017, 2018, about like just the kind of the castration of like the dad figure in shows, and it's always kind of the doofus, always the butt of the joke. And if you're gonna, and then like there was that whole thing on I don't know if it's a Tumblr or Reddit or whatever it is. In like the mid 2000s, it became 2010s, it became like very, very popular to like just hate men.
Yeah.
I think there are some legitimate reasons to hate men at large. But I could see why that would happen.
Yeah.
But if you can't turn around and do the same for other issues or cut it down more into different races, groups, religions, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you can't you can't have it both ways.
Right.
But if there is going to be a causation, it'd be like, I think there's a pretty accurate one with that those attitudes
Yeah.
towards the openness of kind of contempt for men
Right.
and the death of despair rates, suicide, alcoholism,
Yeah.
drug addiction,
Homelessness.
not even deaths, but dropping out of college. Like
Yeah.
men are dropping out of college at a record rate.
Right.
Vast majority of homeless people are men.
Right.
Alcoholism, like I said, drug addiction, suicides, men are way above their or significantly above their representation in that sense. Like it's about a 50-50 split, and they make up way more than that. I don't know the racial disparities in that.
Right.
I know like for homelessness, black men are very, very high. Like in a city like San Francisco, that's about 4% black. I think it's like 40. The homeless population is like 40%, which is insane.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of factors that go into this. I'm not saying this is a direct correlation. I think there are a lot more serious factors, like just the cost of housing and education. And
Right.
I don't think it's like what characters on a sitcom are doing are affecting people like that. But I think there is this hostility to men that if anyone is being affected by culture,
Right.
it's them. If that.
Well,
And
yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing because, whenever I see, sort of like identitarian woke types making the argument that like if you make comedians who make jokes about trans people are contributing to negative attitudes towards trans people in real life, that's an argument that's a line of logic that's been employed by the right for decades. So, for example, in the 1950s, there was a book written by Dr. and I put quotes around him because he was kind of a quack. His name is Frederick Wertham. And the book was called Seduction of the Innocent, and it was filled with bogus studies. When I say bogus, I mean I don't know a whole lot about it, but largely like he was employing bad methodology or like a bad understanding of data at the time. So this is the 1950s, and he was trying to point that like horror comic books, like Tales from the Crypt, which are pretty graphic. He was trying to point. He was trying to establish a correlation between that and like teenage delinquency, and that's been debunked since then. And then like in the 1980s, you had Tipper Gore and the Parents Music Resource Center saying, "Oh, like heavy metal and pop music are contributing to drug and underage sex,
violent video games,
violent video games in the 1990s."
And
all this was coming from the right. It was all, and it's like, but these claims have been debunked on so many occasions, and now the woke are saying, "Oh, pop culture is contributing to bigotry." It's like, no, it's not. There are no real world.
And it's not even to add to what you're saying. It's not just that was coming from the right. It was the bulwark against that was coming from the left. It was the defense. It was like the Frank Zappas and D. Snyders and these people were coming. And now he's been like attacked for whatever, like trans stuff.
And the George Carlin's just pushing back against.
That was, I think all those people would say that they were from the left. And it's like they took that same sort, and I guess you could make the same kind of hypocritical argument against the right now also, but they took that same methodology, that the same tactics, and used it just what fit their identitarian hyper academic narrative.
Exactly.
I would say it's like, no, it's like the people who, it's kind of like it's this whole, it makes my blood boil, like the protests that are blocking roads and destroying art, like throwing paint on works of art. It's like, no, it's not the oil companies that are making me like antagonistic to or it's not like my support of the oil companies that make me not care so much about environmentalism. It's you. It's like the activists who make me like almost want to side with the other side, even though it shouldn't be about sides. Or it's like I have sympathies to Palestine, but it's the activists who make me not want to. It's not the jokes against trans people that are giving me bad attitudes towards trans people. It's the activists who supposedly speak for them, and the trans activists that give me bad attitudes towards trans people, which I know is a minority. But not that I have bad attitudes. I don't have bad attitudes towards any type of person. I have contempt for ideologies and viewpoints, not for any type of people.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's it's fucking activists. And it's funny, when I was a kid, I thought, like, whenever I met someone or I heard someone was an activist, I was like, oh yeah, they're fighting the good fight.
And it's embarrassing how not that long ago I considered myself like a future activist. I was like, I'm going to be an activist. Like, it's like, oh my God, now it's moist cringe. To be like, oh Jesus, like it's because it's lost. It's just become about making everyone around you worse. Like, I'm for activism that is like lobbying your congressman to change, to support or to to vote against a bill that's coming out or something. And like, sure, street activism can be really good for that, but like flying balloons at an airport to disrupt the air traffic, like, that doesn't make me want to support your cause.
Right.
Burning down buildings, making it difficult for me to get to work or to catch a flight, or destroying my downtown. Like, that's not activism. That's just bedlam.
Yeah, exactly. You're not getting a group together and showing up your city council meetings to plead why, this historic building should not be torn down or something, or why this corrupt official should be removed from office. No, it's you're causing chaos and you're pissing everybody off. And
it's silent. It's like, your activism shouldn't be like silencing other people from speech. It should be like showing up and giving your own speech. Like, I'm for that activism. Actually, I was listening to, this is like tangentially related, but I was listening to a movie podcast. So it's new Unspooled, and they can be pretty like moist cringe, lefty liberal on it. But they were talking, they were reviewing In Bruges, and in Bruges, I don't think they meant to make this point, but in the movie you have you seen In Bruges?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, dude, amazing movie. So there's a dwarf actor who is, they're all doing drugs and partying, and he's kind of going on like a racist, not tirade, but talking about it's going to be a race war and all of that. And the people there, they don't shout him down. They don't physically attack him. They just use logic to be like, that's a really dumb idea.
Yeah. That
wouldn't work. You would lose. And like, they use words to fight back against a bad idea, and kind of use comedy. I mean, Will Ferrell's like, well, who are the Vietnamese fighting for? And he's like, the blacks. He's like, oh, well, they got the Vietnamese. And it's like, what about the Mexicans? I don't understand Mexican. Whatever he says, like, the blacks. It's like, oh, well, the Mexicans. It's like they don't, but if you did that, and again, like, it's very, the race war talk is very cringe in its own sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to like have like academic debate about race war, but it's a lot more powerful to kind of use words and logic and make the person feel stupid if they have a stupid idea. But that's not what these activist groups are about. These activist groups are about not letting that person speak, attacking them, ruining their lives. And in the end, the dwarf says, sorry, I was fucked up. Like, I shouldn't have said that stuff. I didn't mean it. I was on cocaine. Like, so I just thought, like, I'm listening to them. Like, that's not the point they're really trying to make, but it's a very good, like, free speech point.
Yeah. I like that. It's like that comedian, that right-wing comedian who was canceled, as Owen Benjamin, I think his name was. Remember that guy? He was on Joe Rogan a couple of times. I don't remember exactly what he was canceled for.
Do you have like red hair?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Owen Benjamin.
Familiar.
Real quick, comedian, or am I?
Well, what'd he say, or what'd he do?
Yeah, it's Owen Benjamin. I think it was a lot of trans stuff, like much more explicitly anti-trans stuff. But he was going on a lot of right wing podcasts. Anyway, he was kicked off of Twitter. I don't remember exactly why, but he's back. He's been back for a while, and so his new thing is flat Earth stuff.
Like making fun of flat earthers?
No,
He's pro flat Earth.
He's pro flat Earth. Like he's pushing those theories. But here's the thing: I'm glad that he's back, because when you go on his Twitter feed, it's been a while since I've seen, but like people are just dunking on it like nonstop.
Yeah.
It's like good, let him waste his time debating with reality.
Exactly. That's actually a great example, because then if you had people who were really, and again, you can hold two different opinions. Like you don't have to be right about it. Flat Earth is pretty bad, but it's like people who are maybe buying into whatever. I have no idea what this person was saying about trans people, but if you silence them, one, you make him stronger, more of like a martyr in the free speech world and all of that. But if you let him speak, like, what's the term? Like, if don't stop someone from hanging themselves, or like if they have whatever it is, the rope and the noose, and don't stop them from making the noose with their own rope. Well, I forget what the term is. The saying is, but it's like, oh shit, like wait, I was taking this guy seriously about this one issue, and he's a loony on this other. Like, I'm not. Oh, okay, maybe I should not. Check. Ponder who my heroes are. Like, don't just dive headfirst into whatever I think someone is saying. Like, basically that like gives people some pause. And you're right. Now he's been discredited probably by a lot of people who were like, oh, I'm with him on that, but like, oh, this guy's nuts.
And also, he's been kind of like discredited by a lot of the right too. Yeah, because they're just kind of like, we're not really associated with flat earthers. So
that's what I'm saying. That's my point. Is like, so they'll just lose their own support if their views don't have any credibility to him. Now he might have had credibility with everything about trans people. If you're like, if that's your shtick, though, I do want to say, like, if that's your thing, I do think that's kind of like that's pretty cringe. Like, if your thing is to just rip on one group, whether that's white people, indigenous trans people, whatever, like that's hack. Like, that's hack shit.
Absolutely.
So that sounded like there was this contingent of people that's still going on. Like, they saw an inroad with, I don't know if you want to say right wing, heterodox, whatever that is, like saw this path and they really leaned into it. And so like, oh, I'm edgy for making these jokes. It's like, no, actually you're just kind of being a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's tact and there's skill. Like what Dave Chappelle does is skill. Right. He'll make fun of multiple groups in one joke. He'll make jokes that have multi layers, and he's making fun of trans people. It's like, no, he's making fun of the system, the crazy system of the California prison system. Like, that's different than just pointing and laugh. Like, I never really appreciated the kind of point and laugh humor. I think like Milo would do some of that. It's like point and laugh at the blue-haired 17 18-year-old at Vassar. Like, I don't know, to me that's not funny.
So I'm gonna do some crazy segue action here. So we were talking about how, like, you were mentioning about like when you cancel a public figure and how that kind of makes them stronger. Greg Lukianoff, I think it was on Bill Maher, because I think he released a book recently. He went on Bill Maher's show recently. And they were talking a lot about the stuff going on with Gaza and kind of like the rise in anti-Semitism, and he brought up an interesting point. He goes, as reprehensible as it is, as anti-Semitism is, do we really want to get to a point where anti-Semites are only talking to anti-Semites? It's like, that's a fair point. Which brings us to the next topic, Claudine Gay.
Claudine Gay got the axe. Says she resigned. Oh, if you don't know who that is, by the way, that's the president of Harvard, who was the final head on that Hydra in front of Congress, the at least Stefanik inquiries. She was bad, just like the rest of them were bad. The MIT one, who like no one knows her name, I think she's next. Like she's kind of like skated through this, because it was like the Penn one. That was the first one where they had like the most vociferous reaction with the Wharton School, which is like the Penn Business School, come out against her, and she was pretty quick on that. Claudine Gay, one, it's Harvard. Two, she's I think a gay black woman. I know she's a black woman. I think she's gay. I don't know exactly. Whatever it is, first in Harvard's history, and it's Harvard. Like, it's our flagship institution,
Right.
wrong, I mean, rightly or wrongly, but she didn't resign over her comments, which are complicated. We did an episode on that. Greg Lukianoff can break this down the most. It's like, it's not that they were necessarily wrong. They were terrible communicators, gigantic hypocrites, which is enough for me to get the max. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't, they have no credibility, but what they were actually saying, it was not that it was wrong. It's just kind of like soulless and heartless and hypocritical, from when juxtaposed their actions at their schools. But they technically like weren't wrong. Letter of the law, not the law, but the handbook and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
Which we've gone into, which we're not going to go into again. But because of her actions and her platform as the president of Harvard, people, when I say people, I mean like 4chan people, apparently, who had been on her for a while, mainly for racist reasons, because they didn't. I shouldn't say that. I don't know if it's racist or if it's like DI shit. Like if a different black woman, let's say, I don't know, the like a conservative black woman, Condoleezza Rice, or the lieutenant governor of Virginia, I'm forgetting her name right now. If she became the president of Harvard, maybe some of them who are just pure racists would try and destroy her. But it's because she was a like DEI hire, according to them, which it looks like it probably was. And they had been funneling information that they had been gathering for a while to people like Chris Rufo, who pushed plagiarism allegations that became so like insurmountable that even with Harvard's backing and the Harvard Corporation, which is like the shadow government of Harvard, even with their backing of her and their investigations, it became so insurmountable, because if you let her stay over very obvious plagiarism, evidence of plagiarism, it would be like, well, what the hell? If any of the students did that, they would be expelled.
Exactly.
Is more or less what happened.
If they pride themselves on academic rigor, then it's like, like look at the fucking president, though.
Yeah, exactly. So she's gone. Of course, she's playing the race card, which it's not like she's not necessarily wrong in that she had to resign because she's a black woman, because that was the catalyst to why people dug into her. It doesn't mean that what she did wasn't wrong. It was the equivalent would be like Donald Trump shit. It's like Donald Trump did, like, there were actually things that came out with Donald Trump that were completely false, and people did because they didn't like Donald Trump. And if it was anyone else, they wouldn't have made these reports, like the Steele dossier and, you know, countless other things. But there are also things that he did that were wrong, that the motivation behind it was that they don't like Donald Trump. Because the motivation behind this was that they don't like Claudine Gay. They don't like that she's a uber progressive DEI promulgating black gay woman. I don't remember if she's gay. I don't know. Maybe I'm just confusing it with her name. But in the end, like that's the motivation, but that doesn't mean that what you did is okay. Right. It's very, and I think a lot of people don't fully understand that.
So Colin Wright, who is an evolutionary biologist, who actually he came to LA. And, a couple of years ago, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna be in LA for a week or whatever. Anybody in town, you want to meet up? And then so it was cool. It was like we met up at a cool rooftop restaurant in Hollywood, and then it was just a bunch of heterodox thinkers. But he's a nice guy, and I like him. But he called it. And this is a tweet he put out. Is December 19th of last year. Prediction: Harvard president Claudine Gay will resign, but she will not admit any wrongdoing. Instead, she will claim to be the victim of a racist right-wing witch hunt that is impacting her mental health and causing a needless distraction for students and faculty. And so he put like colored underlines. red under racist, green under impacting her mental health, and blue under distracting for students and faculty. And he has it right next to her statement for why she's leaving Harvard to line up. So in blue, resign so that our community can navigate this moment of extraordinary challenge with a focus on the institution rather than any individual.
Yeah.
Strike one. And then
Like, I'm
green,
doing this for you. Like, I wouldn't do this, but Harvard's too special. I don't want to be. I don't want to be a distraction.
Amidst all this, it has been distressing, impacting your mental health. And then number 3, it ends at the last one, and frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus.
It's like, by the way, if there's a witch hunt and you are a witch, that's not how it works. Like,
exactly.
like a witch hunt is supposed to be if you're not a witch and they're just seeing witches, there's making up witches. But if you are, like, the Red Scare was bad, but they did catch some communists.
Right.
Like the Rosenbergs, like there very much were communists who wanted to do harm to our country. Does that mean that all of the Red Scare was good? No, a lot of people got ruined for it, and it was terrible. And I think a blight overall. I think it's kind of having a retrospective now. That maybe it wasn't as bad as we've been told. I don't know. To me, it's bad. Right. But they still caught people who were working for the Soviets.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, witch hunts have existed for a while, and they've caused lots of not even harm, like suffering and violence. But I don't know if any witches are real, like what that would be, right? Like people can identify as a witch, but what they actually did. But if they catch a witch, like, it's not a witch hunt in the way that it's entered our vernacular.
Right. It has a connotation of, like, the false accusations.
Yes.
Sort of thing. Or
like you plagiarized,
motivated or something. But it's like, you plagiarized and you got caught.
You were the most. It was so bad that you were the most protected demographic possible. The first Black woman president of Harvard. No bad your plagiarism has to be for them to cave.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe that is one of the unfair parts of being a woman, especially a Black woman, is that there's a contingent of people who will, like, dig a little deeper to see if you did wrongdoing. But if you did wrongdoing, you did wrongdoing. Like that. Like, that's it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like I don't know. This isn't like a search and seizure type thing where you need probable cause for the warrant. Like, this isn't the law. This is a culture.
Yeah. Somebody responded to Colin Wright's tweet with a quote from Thomas Sowell. When people get used to preferential treatment, equal treatment seems like discrimination.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Tom Sowell's a man.
Yeah, he's great. But I think this is a good episode. I think this is a great way to start off the year. Claudine Gay is no longer at Harvard.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, it's one person. It was kind of a lot of crazy circumstances all at one. I think it shows that, I think, I don't know how far back you want to go, who laid the foundation for this. I'm sure at one point, undoubtedly at one point it was the right wing, but the left wing's been at it for a while with canceling people, trying to ruin people, doing it. And I think now there's this apparatus of right wingers. If you want to use right winger, I guess it is. Maybe it's lazy, but like anti-crit, anti-DEI type people who are like, hey, the internet exists for everyone. Like,
exactly.
Like, research and this, like, there's lots of people who are motivated now to strike back, and I get it. Like I totally get it. And if you're going to set this standard, then don't be surprised when other people use it against you. Exactly. And that's exactly what's happened. You're going to look back at old TikTok, old Snapchats, old tweets, Facebook posts, whatever it is. Like, I mean, this has been going on for a while against the left too, but like, don't be surprised when it's used against you. And it's like, and you can't really defend yourself saying, well, who I am protects me, shields me. It's like, people don't buy that anymore. Like maybe in 2020, 2021, but people aren't buying that anymore. That crested that argument. Last thing I want to say about this is what I was starting to say was, this was one person, they're going to replace her with some probably just as critty. I would hope that more change, I hope more major change comes to how these institutions handle themselves. I think every single university in the country is having trainings on how to speak in front of Congress, how to address these issues. I think more. I hope my prayer is that more institutions, and not just universities, but more institutions adopt the concept that we talked about. I think it was last episode that University of Chicago does. You don't have to comment on everything. You don't have to make an official statement, right? You're an institution. You're an institution of higher learning. You play a sport. You make a product. You provide a service. Like, you don't need to make a statement on every war going on, every social issue that exists, every Supreme Court ruling. It doesn't matter. Stick to what you do. And I hope that comes. I hope, honestly, I retweeted, I don't know if this will ever happen. I retweeted that of majorities across, like, basically every demographic, income, education level, even race, is for taxing. If you didn't know this, endowments are not taxed, apparently. And also, like, universities that are on, that obviously take up space, they're fiscal place, they don't pay property taxes or something, which is crazy. I have a friend who actually looked into that a lot for Penn. He went to Penn and for grad school, and he kind of opened my eyes to that. I was like, holy shit, really? Like, they don't pay taxes? But they have endowments the size of small countries, some of them, like Harvard. It's like, why aren't these being taxed?
Right.
I would love to see that happen. Like, that would get my vote. And I think you could set, like, that would be maybe one of the Venn diagram type issues where you have, like, lefties who are all for taxing the rich and the privileged. Even though a lot of these institutions are very very progressive in DEI now, even though there's a backlash to it, I think still there's enough lefties who would be like, no, let's, like, tax the rich, tax the privileged, and then enough right wing people who just hate these institutions.
Exactly, university,
they hate them and will, like, sign me up, like where, where's my give me my torch and pitchfork. I would love to see that happen. I think that'd be great.
So I'm looking at your tweet right now, the one you retweeted.
Mark Andreessen,
So likely 2024 voters support taxing the endowments of private universities by a margin of 49 to 20. Strong bipartisan support and support across education levels. Good.
Yeah, I think I honestly, I bet you if you, like, I didn't see if in the study people knew before. I don't know if the question was, like, taxing endowments or one, did you know endowments are not taxed? I think a lot of people go, like, what? My income is taxed, my property is taxed, my, like, everything I have is taxed, depending on where you live.
Is taxed.
At some places it's taxed twice. If you, like, in our states, Joe, your state fucking crazy. Like income tax, my God, New Jersey has the highest property taxes. California has the highest income taxes. Which is, and I know it's not like everyone, like, I know that's to tax the wealthy at, like, the 13%, I think, is the highest. And like a lot of people don't fall into that, but it's still pretty high. It's still, like, very high across the board. And that obviously doesn't include federal taxes.
No.
But I'm all for it.
Yeah. So it's a turbulent start to 2024.
It is. This is going to be a crazy year.
It's also an election year too. So
don't I know it? Election year. I'm getting married shortly. I'm probably going on my honeymoon shortly after the election. Might be a good time to leave. That's why I told my fiance. Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
That was a mistake. Sorry, didn't mean to say the wrong address.
Oh, Jose Garcia. Oh, right.
Yeah, Jose Garcia, your neighbor, the one who works on his car
in the alley.
Sorry, that's for Jose Garcia.
5322 and a half. That's his address. Yeah.
All right. You doxed yourself. Good job.
I know. 5322 something. Los Angeles.
Rodeo Drive. How come that isn't pronounced rodeo? Is it just to sound fancy?
We keep doing that because that's not the only neighborhood. Because a big hipster neighborhood here. When I first came here, I was like, "Oh, it's Los Feliz." Like no, it's Los Feliz. I was like, "Okay, it's Los Feliz."
Wait, isn't that cultural appropriation?
I guess, yeah.
Because Los Feliz would be, isn't that like the happiness, like the joy, and like so So wouldn't that be the right way to say it? Because it's a Spanish word.
Exactly. Yes.
You should have dropped. You should have dropped a. I'm Latinx. This is how you pronounce it. So
I
hard
know.
on that
And
person.
it's funny. Like now, don't you hate like when you have
Yes.
like?
The answer is yes. Whatever you're about to say, yes, I hate it.
I know, and I know you're gonna agree. Where it's like you have like an interaction with somebody and you walk away and you're, shit, I should have said that. I should have brought that up.
I'm just sitting in my car like 45 minutes later. God fucking damn it, dude.
God, that's such a good stinger.
That's actually before we end the Dane. I love Dane Cook growing up. He was very much like I was like 15, 16, 17 when he was real big. He has a great bit about that where he's like arguing with your wife. She'll like drop this little itty bitty atomic bomb in the back of your head. This little thing that a night later is like she'll be like, you're stupid like your father. And like an hour later, is pacing in the basement. Oh, my father. You know, like, well, my father's a brilliant man.
Well, what I was gonna say was the one when I was hanging out with some chick who I was seeing at the time, and so we were passing by. I was like, oh, Los Feliz, huh? Los Feliz, huh? And she goes, actually, it's pronounced Los Feliz. And she's like a woke white lady too, so it's like, oh god, like of course, like she'd be the one to correct me, a Mexican about how to pronounce a Spanish word. Oh fucking A. Yeah, I should have brought up the Latinx card.
Yeah, that would have been good. I know. That's kind of shit. It's like if you had a time machine, it's like, no, I want to go back to the Roman Empire. I just like go back to correct those like little moments I could have had.
I want to get back with her just to have that argument with her.
Yeah, like 3 years later. It's actually Los Feliz. It comes from Spanish.
Exactly.
I'm Mexican X.
Mex-X.
Yeah.
All right.
Cali
cool,
Mex.
man. Looking forward to another year of commenting on the bullshit.
Yeah, this will be a good year though. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Hey, the more shit that goes on, the more we have to talk about.
Exactly. All right, Benjamin.
Okay. Fight the Crits. Check out our Patreon.
Yes, please.
Yeah, check out our Patreon for merch and whatnot, and like and subscribe and share with friends and family. Unless you know us personally, then don't.
Exactly.
But share with friends and family. And that's all. Love you.
Stay reckless,
Stay
everyone.
reckless. Fight the Crits.